All right. Thank you guys, as always. Thank you very much for showing up. I really appreciate your flexibility. I wanted to share something with you that I did really quick here. I'm going to share my screen and walk you through where this assignment is. It should show up on your Canvas, and I wanted to talk about it really quickly. All right, if you go to your first page of Canvas, this is our class, and you go over here, look down to attendance. That is not the right module. The right module to go to is this one under modules. Well, you can find it under modules. And then if you look through under modules, you'll have each of the weeks, module 1, 2, 3, 4, and number 5 is where we do prehistory. So that's not until February. And this one is where you'll need the paints. You know, if you guys are getting paints and stuff. So that's still 3 weeks away. And if you go on this, the very top of these modules, and they're on the module page of our Canvas interface, hit attendance. And this is, we talked about attendance makeups last week. Right here, review and test new Teams interface. They just updated this. This is what we're using now. This is an assignment, and this assignment is worth 15 points. You can turn it in as a text entry or a file, so you can type it out on a Word doc and send it in. A couple people have tried to submit links to Google pages and stuff, and the security on my computer won't allow that to work. And so they need to be either discrete uh, files that you can send, or they need to be typed in to the text box. And anyway, so this assignment is something for this week. And what it is, there's three parts of the assignment, and I did this, and it took me less than 10 minutes to do. So it doesn't take very long to do. But the first part is you write down if you attended the Wednesday session live or watched the recording and list 5 things you learned during the session. 2, you write down, and I'll clarify that really quick so that you'll know what I'm talking about. 2, write down if you attended the Friday session live or watched the recording, list 5 things you learned during the session. And 3, write down one thing that went well, one thing that did not go well, and whether or not you think this was successful. So, as an example, first one, I watched the Wednesday session live and I learned that the teacher likes purple. Art is important because it keeps cultural identities intact. Even really old people can make good art. Description refers to the shapes and colors you see, and the sound was fuzzy at the beginning. So those are 5 observations I'm making about the Teams meeting. And like I said, it can deal with the clothes I'm wearing, if the lighting's funny, if there's a dog here barking in the background. The point of the 5 things is just to verify that you sat through the meeting. And if you watch the recording, that's fine too. And the second one, I say in the example, I did not watch the Friday session live, but I watched the recording. I learned that the recording does not go live immediately, that all of us are professionals in one way or another. Ancient Egyptians used grid systems to enlarge their drawings. Dwayne Johnson's character in The Mummy 2 brought writing to ancient Egypt. And we don't draw what we see, but what we think about what we see. Okay, so those are 5 things. Notice that I'm not regurgitating the module. I'm just talking about 5 things that I saw during the actual meeting, the video. And then number 3 in my example for this assignment is I was impressed by how clear the image was for the most part. The sound was fuzzy at the beginning, but worked out okay. So that's the positive thing. That's the negative thing. And then although overall this felt successful, I would rather be in a class with other breathing humans. This is fine for emergencies. So in that number 3, I addressed one thing that went well, one thing that did not go well, and whether or not you think this was successful. All right, does everybody understand what that assignment entails? It looks like several other people joined. This is great. Excellent. Thank you very much. Drake, Ashton, Sophie, Alexander, Ada. Okay. Excellent. Would two of you please respond and let me know if you understand or have questions about this assignment? Okay, Sophie and Ashton are writing in and saying that they understand. Drake, did you have a question? Or is that just, oh, that was just letting me know you understood. Okay, all right. Excellent. Good. And every time you hear that beep, it's somebody else trying to get in on the meeting. Several of you were able to get in without that. And I'm wondering, which of you, if somebody was able to get on without having to wait in the lobby, who is that? And was it directly from the link that I sent? Or did any of you use the link from the email?
I did. I was able to.
Okay. When you used the link from the email, did you have to go into the the lobby area and have me let you in, or did you get right into the meeting?
Yeah, I had to be let in.
Okay. All right. Okay. What I'm getting is that some people had to be using the link from the email. It looks like about half of you were able to get right in the meeting, and the other half um, had to have me let you in. That's odd. Okay, because this should be I want the tools to be as easy for you guys as possible because my job is not to make things difficult for you, it's to make it as easy as possible. I want everybody to succeed. And that's one of the reasons why you can keep resubmitting stuff until you get a perfect score, is I want you to go through the process, and if you choose to, and get that perfect score. And that's true of quizzes and anything. If any of you guys have any hard time resubmitting any assignments, quizzes or otherwise in my class, let me know, and I'll do whatever I need to fix it. All right, so that's what that is. Now, I do have a video that I would like to share with you, and I'm thinking, excuse me, the video I'd like to share with you, I'm going to get to in just a couple minutes, and if it doesn't work, then what we're going to do is I'll put that link in to an email and send it to everybody and have you watch it, but I'll also put it into the assignment itself, and hopefully that will help. Okay, so as a quick recap, last week we talked about, or not last week, on Wednesday, we talked about different ways that art is practical and useful. We talked about how it maintains history. It's a view into history. Like we looked at that picture of Van Gogh's Night Cafe in Paris. It can help us to respect elements of history and keep indigenous cultures alive. Like the artists who wove traditional Navajo grain baskets. And we can see that there's a lot of other things too. I had a friend who he did digital animation, and he used his fine arts background to create animations so that Dow Corning, a chemical company, used his animations to show engineers what their proposed substances would look like. Like if they're making a new kind of silicone or whatever like that, his animations were that good. So that's another thing. I mean, who knew about that? And there's a lot of different ways to use art. So we talked about that, and then we talked about the four different um, tools of artistic critique. And the artistic critique process. Remember that critique or critical means with intention, and that's all it means. And so when we go through and do a critique, what we're actually doing is using those four steps to look closely at something and be able to articulate what we see. So who remembers what the first step is? It starts with a D.
Describe.
Excellent. Max, that's exactly right. Okay, somebody other than, and that's where we look at the parameter, just the physical parameters of the thing. You know, where how big is it, what colors, all that kind of stuff. All right, somebody who isn't Max. What is the second tool of artistic critique? Yes, detail is one of the things that we look at when we are describing it. We really get into the details of it. So good observation. I'll give you a hint. The second tool starts with an A. Summer says analyze, and so does Ada. Excellent. Yes. And this is where, so if the describe is about the what are we looking at? The analyze is the how. We're starting to guess how did the people that made this make it? You know, what kinds of tools do they use? How did they get those marks? How do they make the decisions that they made? Excellent. All right. So somebody who is not Max, Summer, Ada, or Sophie, what is the third step? And another clue is I'll start with an I. Interpretate Jethro. Exactly right. It's interpretation. And this is one of my favorite steps because this gives you an opportunity if you choose to. You don't have to, but if you choose to, you can start doing research on the world that the artist was living in. You know, is this contemporary to today or is it earlier? If it's contemporary today, what part of the world do they live in that they're working on this art? One of my favorite digital artists is a woman in China who builds these massive sim programs where she fuses all sorts of fantastical and the historical in Chinese history and puts it all together into a digital environment. Really incredible stuff. But I love it and I don't understand it. When I start reading what she has to say about the choices that she made, it dawns on me that this is really showing off uh, beautiful elements of Chinese culture in a specific format that people today can get into a lot easier, particularly people that are used to the sim environment simulations. All right, excellent. What is the fourth tool? Somebody who's not any other people. Evaluation. Ashton, that's exactly right. Is this thing first, is it valuable? Is it culturally valuable? Is it physically valuable? And is it worthwhile? Was it worth the energy that it took us to go out of our way to look at it? And to be honestly, some of the stuff I see that people claim as art is just a massive waste of everybody's time. But most of the stuff that people actually genuinely care about when they make it is really worth taking a moment and examining. And then if it made us think something a little bit broader, made us realize something, made us feel something, then it definitely has value. So, yeah, excellent recap. Good job, guys. All right, this portion of the module is called the flow state. And I know that all of you guys, I'll have to replace that image. I know that all of you guys have experienced the flow state where, and this is exactly where you're doing something and then you realize you come to your senses and you realize 2 hours have passed, your butt is totally asleep and you're really thirsty. You know, something like that. And all of us have had experiences like that. Um, but that is when our brain is so hyper focused on what we're doing that everything else disappears. What does this have to do with happiness? And I love a lot of this kind of conversation because there is an assumption. There's a really good movie I recommend you guys watch if you can find it. It's called I'm sorry, I forget what it's called. Um, I think it's called Smile. I'll have to find that and send you the link if you guys are interested in it. But the movie is by the director of Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. One of the observations he made is if you are in the cold and you're hungry, when you get into shelter, when you have shelter that you're warm, I am. Okay, Sophie, excellent. Yes, you know exactly what movie I'm talking about. It's Tom Shadyak's I Am. And what is really cool about that is If you're cold and miserable, you step into shelter where you become warm and you have food to make you full, and you have something to put on so that you have clothes, then you're happy. But that dramatic change between being out in the cold and being warm and the happiness that comes from it is not relative to how much of a difference there is. Like if the difference is, oh, somebody says it's super interesting and the flow state is very similar to a meditative state. Yes, it is a meditative state. And I think you're absolutely right. Um, if you if you have shelter, if you have food, if you have clothing, you're relatively happy. But it would seem to make sense if you have more food, if you have more clothing, if you have a lot of shelters, that you'd be more happy. But that's not the case. And Tom Shadyac at one point, after the success of Ace Ventura, had 4 or 5 homes that were beautiful, beautiful homes, and he realized he can only live in one home at a time. And it didn't seem to make sense to him to start to keep chasing after that kind of stuff. And I thought that's kind of interesting because we do have to find out what motivates us, what drives us to that point where we're happy, and do we appreciate the fact of the happiness state and that it doesn't increase directly in proportion to how much food we're surrounded by or how many homes we have. Now, I do think I do not think that those are bad things to have, but I think that it is important to pay attention to real the motivations behind having that. And it is fascinating to me, this kind of graph where it talks about average income and happiness. You can see happiness doesn't seem to follow the more is better kind of idea. Now, I'm not going to say that people that have more are all miserable. That is not true. And I'm not going to say that everybody that has less is super happy. That's not true. If all things are equal, I would rather have more and still be happy. If we can get away with that, that's great. I would love that. Now, why is that attached to the flow state? What's really fascinating is that as people started doing experiments and observations about the flow state, where it happens, what is really interesting is that the state of happiness seems to parallel and occur in the same kind of instances as how often people find themselves in the state of flow. And I think that that is really interesting. And I would say that happiness chases um, satisfaction. If we are truly satisfied about something, we find a way to be happy as well, a lot of the time. And what's interesting to me, if we are doing something that is so engaging and enjoyable to us that we slip into the flow state more and more often, I think that that is reflective of, or that parallels our increasing satisfaction. Because if we are doing something that we enjoy so much that we are going into flow state, then the thing that we are doing is also, I think, parallel to that, giving us satisfaction. And I think that that helps us. Oh yeah, that's so funny. I wrote the title of the movie right there. That helps us, I think, quite a bit. Now this link, I don't know if that link still works. I'm going to see if that link still works. Okay, this shows you, gives you links to the free movie or elements of the free movie. So, um, anytime where it asks you to sign in, give an email or anything like that, I would really be hesitant to do that. Don't willy-nilly give your email out. What I would recommend is look for that movie on any sort of free platform that you're already a member of. And if you do find that you really want to go after something what you need to submit your email for, do make up a fake account that doesn't have any of your personal information. Um, it's nobody's business anymore unless you want them to know. So be very careful with that. All right. Now, we're going to go to the next portion. And there's right here is a quiz about flow state. So I want you to go through this whole thing. And when you take the quizzes, this is really important. When you take the quizzes, have the quiz open on one page and have the information it draws from open on the other page. I mean, I don't expect you to do these closed books. If you want to do them open book and stuff like that, that's fine. If you take it once and you get 7 out of 10 points, go back, retake it, and with this page open so you can get more points. There's no reason for everybody not to get a perfect score in this class. Right? Does anybody have any questions about that little thing that we talked about? Okay, I'm going to really quick here. I'm going to do attendance. Here we go. Okay. I'm just sorry, I'm just getting it set up so that I can do this. All right, is Sophie here? Yes, you are. Okay. All right. Okay, is Summer here? And if I'm calling, okay, say yes. All right, if I'm when I'm calling your name, please, like last time, either type it into the chat that you're here or say it over your speaker. And Summer just typed it in the chat. Okay, is Drake here? Is MJ here? Okay. Naomi. Okay, is Hunter here?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Peyton. Okay, Max.
Here.
Excellent, thank you. Brennick, I thought I saw you.
I'm here.
Okay. Sulieli. Sorry, Sulietti. I'm sorry, Sulietti. I'm sorry, my eyes are bad this morning for whatever reason. Is Sulietti here? Okay. Jade. Is Jade here? Excellent. Caleb. Excellent. Tyler. Ada. Ada, good. Kaylee, I thought I saw you. Okay. Yadira. Excellent. Hallie, I'm pretty sure I saw you. Excellent. Okay. Gavin. Excellent. Ashton. All right, excellent. I see you. Jethro, you're here. Okay.
Here.
Excellent. Mael, are you here, Mael? Okay. Tanner. Is
Here.
Tanner? Okay. Excellent. Alexander. Okay. Great. Excellent. Eric. Eric. Excellent. Mason. Excellent. All right. Is there anybody who did not hear me call their name? All right. Excellent. That's great. We actually have better attendance this time than we did last time. So this is great. Oh, Alexander, I see your hand is up. Do you have a question? Or just letting me know that you're here? Okay, so I did get everybody, I believe. Okay. All righty. And for the purposes of this Teams meeting experiment, anybody who did not hear their name or anything like that, that means you're not here. Uh, just follow the directions and getting credit for attending. So, all right, now I'm going to talk about this really, really quickly, and then we'll have about 20 minutes to go over the assignment. And I want you to, I have a short video that I want to share with you, and see how long it is. Yeah, it's about 7 minutes. Um, I'm going to do it at a little bit faster speed if I can. And I'll put the link in so you guys can watch it, but it will really, really help. Okay. And this is a reflection, an artistic inspiration reflection. And in this, it's going to be a little bit different. Typically, reflections, you are asked to write a short essay on your thoughts on something. On this one, you're doing that, but what you're going to be doing is going to this link, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And in this, you'll notice that I'm not requiring you to take an image of whatever it is you're seeing. But this particular link shows lots and lots and lots of different artwork. And what's really interesting is it randomizes it. You know, every half an hour you go back, it changes everything. So go through and find something. And if none of these speak to you, scroll down to the bottom, go to the next page, and you'll need to find something. I really like this painting. This is an excellent example of the Hudson River School painting after a thunderstorm, the Oxbow River. Uh, I really like that painting. So for this assignment, what I'm going to do is go to that, and then I'm just spending a couple seconds exploring the website. I'm going to click on this so I can see a better picture of it, a better image of it. And we're going to look at that. And I would recommend when you do this, blow it up as big as you can, fit it onto your screen. Just blow it up as big as you can, and then look at it. And you look at this, there's little dots over here, and then we look at these dots closer. Maybe that's a person, maybe that's a boat. I don't know. That definitely is a boat right there. It looks like there's farms. There's somebody just set a little flag down. Maybe that's their walking pole and like their camping gear. Somebody right here. I wonder if this is supposed to be a friend of the artist because it looks like they have an easel and they're painting. But just take a couple minutes and look at it as well as you can. And then come back over here and you keeping in mind those 4 steps: describe, analyze, interpret, and evaluate. But instead of answering those questions directly, what I want you to do is just follow this. Why did this artwork catch your eye? Well, this artwork caught my eye because it it looks like how I want to feel right after a storm. I see the storm clouds going away and the countryside just looks really clean. And that's how I want to feel after a storm. That's why it caught my eye. What do you think inspired the artist who made it? I think looking at this, we going in close, you can see that there's somebody with an easel right there. I wonder if the artist was walking around and they say, "Oh, this is a beautiful view. I'm going to take an image of that." And I wonder if they were just out for a walk and they came across this and it was really dramatic. Maybe that's the inspiration. And then the person was just kind of excited when he saw it and I decided to paint that excitement into it. In what ways did the artist enter into a flow state while making this artwork? What were the challenges and what were the skills required? I'm looking at this. I know that this painting probably took a long time, and I can just imagine myself if I was that engrossed, I would just be enjoying looking at the landscape. It was a little bit in the back of my head, thinking I hope the rain doesn't come back. And maybe that enjoyment is where the artist got into the flow state. And what were the challenges that they had to overcome? Well, there's not going to be a public restroom anywhere nearby. So that's one. Maybe they packed the lunch. Maybe the artist even had to go back several times. The time that this was made, they didn't have cameras or anything. Maybe the artist quickly sketched this in so they wouldn't lose the image in their mind. And then when they came back, maybe they had to come back a couple times, get in the flow state each time and keep watching it. So that's definitely a big, and keep painting. That's definitely a big challenge. So that's how to do this assignment. All right. Does anybody have any questions on that? Oh, somebody said maybe a log stump on the water. Yes, definitely. We look down here. I think there's probably a log stump right. I think maybe right there. That would make sense. There you are. All right. Now, so that's a reflection. Now for this is something I want to introduce you to. We're going to be doing two different things. And these are the two different assignments, drawing simple designs, drawing something upside down. Okay, these are the simple designs. This is drawing upside down. All right, this is the image that we're drawing. Now, do you guys remember what I said about um, what do you draw? Does anybody ever draw what they see? Sophie says no. You're absolutely right. We don't draw what we see. We're drawing what we think about what we see. Because the information goes from out there through our brains into whatever it is that we're using to draw with. And you're absolutely right. We draw what we think about what we see. And so what's interesting, I'm going to talk about this one a little bit briefly, and then I'll go to the first one and show you a good tool that you can use for both of them. But in this, I think all of you can tell it's a horse. But the way I'm going to show you how to do this, you're going to divide this up into an imaginary grid, and you're going to copy it, looking at each of the squares as upside down designs. And you're not going to worry about what the overall image looks like. You're going to transfer each area over and draw each area, thinking about how this curve is made. And that's it. You're not thinking about it's the bottom end of the horse. You're going to think about these shapes here. You're not going to be thinking this is a hoof. And what you will find is if you take something and chop it up into bits so you don't have to deal with the context of where it's placed in a drawing, you can transfer things over with quite a bit of accuracy. And it is really interesting. And what you're going to be doing is spending a bit of time copying this line, and this shape. That should probably take you about 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And then you're going to do the same kind of thing with this drawing, transfer it onto another piece of paper, and then you're going to submit those drawings. All right. Now, I will show you now how to do this with as much accuracy as possible. Now, the ancient Egyptians, you've seen the tomb paintings of ancient Egyptians, and I'll see if I can find a picture really quick. Um, okay, so looking at these, you can see that these are the kinds of things I'm talking about. Egyptian tomb paintings, lots of different stuff like that. We can go to images, look up a bunch of different stuff. What these were not painted, these were all found because they're painted on the walls of tombs deep underground. The people did not design them on those walls. They designed them on pieces of paper at the time was called papyrus because it was reeds woven and smashed together. And so they would draw it first on that, And then how they would get it to transfer over is the drawings would only be about the size of your notebook. These walls, of course, are 9 feet tall. And what they would do is they would draw a small grid over the drawing in the notebook, a large grid on the wall, and then just transfer one square at a time from the design on their notebook to the wall. And if a grid square on your notebook is, say, an inch by an inch, and the grid square on the wall is 7 inches by 7 inches, what's really interesting that happens is, even though it's a lot bigger, everything will look exactly the same. Because once you've transferred each of those grid points or each of those grid squares to another area, it doesn't matter the size of the square, it's still square. Everything inside of there is done relative to the shape of that square, and you'll find that it all actually fits together. And it really, it's amazing to me the Egyptians figured this out so long ago. So I'm just going to go through, and we're not going to watch the video, but this is a really good example of this in operation. Notice a person drew a bunch of grid squares on this photo, and then grid squares on their notebook. And instead of drawing this whole thing, trying to struggle and draw the whole thing, in this grid square, what you see is two vertical dark shapes, and then something right on the edge, another vertical dark shape, and you see that they're drawing it right here, those three shapes. And it's interesting because what is fascinating about this is that you're no longer bogged down by trying to draw what you see. All you're doing is focusing on copying these group of shapes. And that pulls your mind away from the expectations that we all deliver or we all develop. I don't know if you ever tried to draw a hand of somebody, but it can be really, really difficult because when you try to draw a hand, um, oh, I'm sorry, this is what I was talking about. Nobody said anything, so I thought I was sharing with you. But when you try to draw a hand, you're thinking thumb, you're thinking fingers, all that kind of stuff. You're not thinking what are the different shapes. And by doing the grid squares, just taking the shapes of the grid, you're taking it out of context of wherever else it fits, and you're just transposing those shapes from grid square to grid square in your notebook. And it makes it so that you can be a lot more accurate because what you're thinking about is the shapes rather than, oh, this is a Moisen tower. Is that making sense to people? Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And I will include a link to this so you guys can watch it, and that will definitely help when you do the horse. Here, measuring the grid. Now, if you're doing it on with the computer screen, what you can do is just kind of divide it up into different sections and work on the sections. And I'll kind of talk my way through that. Okay, so this person is drawing that, and then you see they're drawing a grid square on the paper. So this is the grid square on the paper and the grid square on the image. And then they're just one at a time copying the shapes in that over here. And after a while, as each grid square develops, hey presto, magic happens, and you can see that it starts to become a pretty solid representation of the original image. Now, how do we apply that to these things? Well, if we look at this top one with these rectangle shaped bumps, what I would do is I would draw a shape on my notebook that is basically a long, flat rectangle. And I do that for both of these. And then I kind of guess, okay, I see that there's five of these, and I would make little marks for those five, where those five bumps are. And then I would approximate one, see if it looks pretty good relative to what's around it. And then after I draw that one, I would copy it with the other four. And then you can repeat that right here. Do the same kind of thing. Draw a long horizontal rectangle, kind of divide it up where these lines are going to be, and then use the relative spacing to get those angles and shapes without worrying about what it does look like overall. So is everybody following this kind of process? Is there anybody that doesn't see what's going on here? I'm not hearing any I'm not seeing any responses. Do you guys understand the kind of mental process going through to transfer these shapes onto your notebook?
Yes.
Onto your, okay, all right. Now this, what we do with this, I would start with drawing a rectangle that looks similar, and then I'd very lightly draw through it horizontal line dividing it in half, and then two others dividing it into quarters, and then vertical lines doing the same kind of thing. And I draw those very lightly on my notebook after doing this rectangle outline. And then I would imagine on my computer screen where those horizontal and vertical lines would be and transfer the grid points over. And if you do that, and then when you're all done, kind of smooth out the curved lines, you'll be amazed at how well and solidly you can transfer this over. Now with the upside down drawing, it's the same kind of process, the exact same process. On this, you might want to even print out a screenshot of the page and then draw that grid right over the horse. Just do, or three vertical lines dividing up into fours, and maybe three horizontal lines dividing that into fours, doing the same kind of thing on your notebook page or your sketchbook page, and then transferring each square over. Now, I will tell you that every single person in all the years that I've taught, every single person who has used the grid technique to transfer this image, when they turn it around so it's upright, they can see the horse immediately. It's the people that aren't paying attention to the grid, that don't kind of pull their mind away from the fact that this is a horse, those people have the hardest time. So that I would really um, emphasize that it is very important. Okay, a lot of people are saying, yes, I see it. I understand. I understand. I understand. Great. Excellent. Um, it is interesting to me that the more context we try to bring into something, thinking we're going to make it more accurate, that kind of visual context can also make it very hard for us to be happy with our own work as we're making a drawing or doing something. Now, again, you're not graded on how perfect this is, and I'm using the wrong definition of the word for that. It's the A lot of the times we look at something and every time we're dissatisfied, we say, well, it's not perfect. That's not what perfect means. Do you remember what I said perfect actually means? Perfect actually means complete. For the purposes of this class, though, if I see assignments that aren't looking like they followed the directions, you're not going to get the best score. You're not graded on how accurate or beautiful or balanced your stuff is. You are graded on whether or not you followed the directions. And one of the things that we talked about today is using the grid. If you use the grid, it's going to look right in addition to being right because you're following the directions. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, good, excellent. All right. Before we wind up and take off, I'm everybody that didn't show up, I'm going to send the link to the video to, and then I'm also going to post the links into that assignment that I showed you. And I'll show you that page again here. Okay, here's that page. What I'm going to do is post the Wednesday video. I'm going to put that link right in here. And the today's video, I'm going to put that link right in here as well. So if you guys, if you just miss class so much you have to watch the video again, you can go back, which I know all of you, since all of you are A students, everybody in my class is an A student, you're going to want to share this video time that we've had this week with your children and grandchildren because you love it so much. So, but that's where I'm going to put them in addition to emailing the links to the people that weren't able to make it live because of technology or whatever. All right. Does anybody have any final closing questions before we wrap it up? I think this is one of the biggest drawbacks for doing a Teams meeting, which I anticipated, but I wish if you guys have any ideas of how to get around it, that's great. But we're not going to do this again unless we absolutely have to when I'm on at that conference. Um, in class, I can look at you and subtly pressure you into nodding your head and raising your hand and giving a comment. Here I can't. I mean, nobody cares. But the class always goes better. Oh, Drake, you said you might have missed a roll call. Okay, well, let's see if I can take care of that. But on the Teams meeting, it's almost impossible to get that kind of interaction. When you're kind of on the edge about asking a question, you don't know if you want to, and then I got you marked down now, Drake. Um, that kind of a thing, I think, is what I miss about the live classes. I mean, next week we're going to meet in the regular class, as human beings next to each other, and I will coordinate. So either that day or Tuesday, most likely Tuesday, we're going to do water marbling. I will bring the stuff. I'll have the stuff with me. We'll set up. We'll make the things, and then after they dry, the next day after they dry, I have these little super cheap sketchbooks, and I'll teach everybody how to fold a cover for it using the paper that they marbled. And then you'll have your own, little decorative sketchbook, and everybody will think it's truly awesome. And in and amidst all that, we'll talk about the real school stuff for this class. But that's what the goal is. That's what the plan is for next week. And I want you to remember as well that you missed Monday classes this last week, or this week because of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And next week we are going to be meeting Monday, Tuesday, because Monday classes for this week are on next week's Tuesday. We're meeting Wednesday and we're meeting Friday. So we're meeting 4 days next week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I know that that is just going to be super fun for everybody. We won't be able to get enough of each other. All right, guys, stay healthy, stay safe, and I will look forward to seeing you next week.